There is a story doing the rounds across the West right now. Adult children are moving back into their parents' homes, eating into their retirement savings that took decades to build. Americans even have a name for them: boomerang kids. Newspapers are full of advice on how to protect your nest from your own children. To a lot of us Indians, this story might sound a bit bizarre. An adult child living with their parents is not unusual for us. For generations, Indian families have worked on a different understanding. Parents spend decades investing in their children: school fees, college tuition, coaching classes, even a wedding, and maybe also the down payment on a first home. Later, when those parents grow old, the money flows in the other direction. Children pay the medical bills, the groceries, and the monthly expenses. We think of it as our culture, but it is also our pension system. And this is partly because the formal system reaches only a fraction of the workforce. Less than a quarter of Indian workers are covered by formal retirement schemes like the EPF or the NPS or the National Pension Scheme. Unsurprisingly, the country already ranks among the world's worst pension systems, and its retirement savings gap is projected to reach a staggering $85 trillion dollars in another 25 years or so. Which is why most people so far have relied to varying degrees on the family. And for decades, this arrangement looked like one of India's greatest strengths. Richer countries built retirement systems around pension funds and social security, and we proudly said to ourselves, the West is growing old and lonely because it lost the family. We will be spared of that because we still have ours. But that system was designed for a different India. The children paying into the traditional Indian setup are taking longer to become financially secure. AI is making the job market tough, rents and property costs in urban cities are going through the roof, and on the other end, parents who are drawing from their kids are living longer than ever before. Healthcare costs are rising. By 2050, India will have nearly 347 million people over the age of 60. That is more than double the number that it had in 2022. In other words, the family that everyone thinks is India's safety net is quickly becoming the reason that many Indians have none. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nigda Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rachel Varghese and I will come to you with one business story that's worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Tuesday, the 4th of August. I want to start with the most surprising data that I found on this. You probably already know that India's working age population has been growing steadily. It went from around 58% at the turn of the century to nearly 65% today. In fact, it is expected to keep rising for the next 15 to 20 years at least. This is the data that we boast about to the rest of the world. So, by the usual economic logic, this is exactly when a country saves the hardest for the years ahead. Household savings should be going up substantially. Turns out the exact opposite is happening. Net household financial savings fell to about 5.1% of the GDP in the financial year 2023, the lowest in roughly 50 years. And the wider savings rate dropped from 22.7% to just 18.4% in 2 years. This gap is being filled with debt. Borrowing has climbed to record highs, and lending to Indians under 35 through fintech apps grew around 36% in a single year, and most of it was unsecured. At the cost of the big cities, where rents are going through the roof and the idea of a first home keeps slipping further away. A young country spending its way through the very years that it should be saving. In the end, the child who is meant to fund a parent's old age is struggling to fund their own. Now, look at the other end. 1 in 3 of India's elderly population has no income of their own. Naturally, when the money runs short, the call goes to the son or the daughter. That transfer, repeated across millions of homes, is the pension system of our country. Just to remind you of an important number that I mentioned earlier, By 2050, India will have nearly 350 million people over the age of 60, and this is more than double the number in 2022. Now, add to this one of the weakest pension systems in the world. India ranks 45th of 47 in the Mercer CFA Global Pension Index, and that is a grade D. Meanwhile, the parents drawing on support are living longer, so the money has to last for more years. The number of Indians over 80 is set to grow by 279% by 2050. Basically, the frailest and the most expensive group is rising the fastest, and their sharpest risk is medical. But health insurance, as we know, is also abysmal in India. Households still pay more than 40% of the country's health bills straight from their own pockets. Only about a third of the elderly hold any health insurance. One serious illness can erase a lifetime of savings. So the draw grows larger and longer precisely as the people paying in grow weaker. And once aging accelerates, building universal social insurance or a good pension system becomes way more expensive. The market has already read these patterns. For example, money is flowing into the business of caring for the old, with senior living headed to about $8 billion worth by 2030. But the one product that was specifically designed to turn a parent's own home into an income, the reverse mortgage, also went nowhere. Bankers who try to sell it hit the same wall every time. Families want the house to pass on to the children, and the children resist handing it over to a bank. So the house cannot rescue the parent because it is already promised to the child. But you know what? India is asking this question while it is still young, which is the best possible time to answer it. Countries poorer than we were once, with the same issues of a young informal economy, have managed to build pension systems that hold. Not without their flaws, but they're there. Stay tuned for more on this. There is no perfect pension system in the world. Countries have built retirement security around different ideas shaped by their economies, labor markets, and demographics. India is unlikely to find a ready made model. The more useful method would be to borrow the principles that fit our own realities. For example, the lesson we can learn from Australia is automation. Since introducing the superannuation guarantee in 1992, employers have been required to contribute a share of every employee's wages into a retirement account. That contribution has gradually risen from 3% to 12%. As per latest figures, Australia's superannuation system now manages around 4.5 trillion Australian dollars in assets, about 160% of the country's GDP. This makes it one of the largest pools of retirement savings in the world. The underlying idea is simple. People save consistently because they do not have to remember to save. Singapore pushes the same principle further. Its Central Provident Fund is a compulsory savings system financed by both employers and employees. The money supports housing, healthcare, and retirement over a person's lifetime. And this has helped Singapore achieve one of the world's highest home ownership rates, around 90%. So, the general lesson from Australia is a single portable savings account that stays with a worker throughout their lives. Yet, both Australia and Singapore rely heavily on formal payrolls. That is a significant constraint in India, where most workers remain outside formal employment. Brazil, which is more similar to our realities, offers a different lesson: broad coverage. Through a combination of contributory pensions and a tax funded rural and social pension, it has extended old age income support to millions of workers who spend their lives in informal or agricultural employment. Researchers have found that these pensions often become a stable source of income for poorer households and local economies. But there is a trade off. The country spends around 12% of its GDP on pensions, among the highest levels for an upper middle economy, which is why it has repeatedly reformed the system to contain the costs. That trade off also appears throughout academic research on India as well. Rather than proposing a single sweeping reform, researchers point towards a layered system. Expand basic social pensions for the poorest elderly, make retirement saving automatic whenever formal payrolls exist, create portable pension accounts that move with workers across employers and gig platforms, and use targeted government matching contributions or sector specific welfare funds to bring informal workers into the system. Karnataka's Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Board, funded through a 1% cess on construction costs, is one example of this approach. It suggests that even in the informal economy in the country, retirement protection can be built around industries rather than individual employers. None of these ideas is a complete answer on its own. But together, though, they point towards a retirement system that reflects India's realities. One where families continue to play an important role but are supported by institutions that spread the financial risks of old age across workers, employers, and the state. The family has carried us so far. The task now is to build something that can carry our families when there is still time to do it.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of The Ken, India's first subscriber focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of a subscriber only offerings, and a full subscription offers daily, long form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.